But now we're going to kick off with our first session. I would like to welcome to the stage MediaTel CEO Greg Rimmer, who will introduce his panel. This is Inside the Mind of the Chief Client Officer, ticking off brands 2022 shopping list. Greg.
Thank you, Steve, and good morning, everyone. Welcome, as Steve said. Delighted to have everyone here. Some new faces and some very familiar faces in the audience. So hope to get to say hello to you over the next couple of days. It's future of brands, but we thought we'd start with agencies. Now, that might seem counterintuitive, but we thought, actually, let's put these senior leaders on the spot and find out exactly why they think that they should be representing the brands in the room. And so I'm delighted to have a fabulous selection. We've got a global powerhouse creative agency in Wunderman Thompson and the global chief client officer, Caroline Foster Kenny. We used to work together. We worked out, I think it was 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
About 3 years ago we used to work together. To my left, Natasha Murray, who's the chief client officer at Universal McCann, obviously one of the world's premier global media agencies. And then I'd like to say a special thanks to Rob Pierre, who stepped in yesterday as we lost our Omnicom representative to a family crisis. But Rob, as you may know, is the founder and global CEO of Jellyfish, a digital performance agency. So that's how I've called them, creative agency, digital agency, media agency. But I thought we'd start by asking them, how do they describe themselves to clients, and whether they think that their offering is what clients need today. So perhaps we can start, Caroline. You've got the biggest job title and the biggest, Wunderman Thompson. They're an example of a successful global merger. I mean, WPP seem to like those. Yeah,
they do.
Those are people saw the news yesterday. Mediacom and Essence. Launched. Messence is apparently the new name.
You weren't going to spread that.
Did I say that? Do you want to just give us half an hour on why that?
So the latest news of that merger, of course, being called Essence Mediacom, following very much the pattern of really, I suppose, simplification as part of WPP's strategy, and building on the success. I mean, there's been so much change within that group, including Wunderman Thompson, which was formed nearly 3 years ago. And as you know, there's other agencies in the group that have come together as well. But less about them. That's a different part of the group, and more about Wunderman Thompson, which, as I said, is still pretty new. And we would describe ourselves really as, I think, part creative agency, part consultant, and part technology company as well. And, I think what we're seeing is, clients are coming to us for very different things, and we will have some clients that come to us where we will literally be delivering end-to-end marketing solution services. But then we also have clients that we may just work with on specific scopes around e-commerce, or we might even be consulting on a big reorganization for them. Or it could be, like you said, creative powerhouse, that we cover all their brand communications work. So it really does vary enormously. And, how Wunderman Thompson shows up really does, depending on the client's need, its form and shape evolves each time. But primarily, we speak to clients a lot around what they're talking to us about is growth. Growth in that, I mean, when you think about, especially for the CMOs at the moment, huge pressures on them in their marketing role to deliver business growth at a time that arguably has never been as challenging as it is now, with the continual disruption and transformation. So they are looking to us to be strategic business partners. I think they're looking for all their agencies to be strategic business partners, to be honest, and deliver business growth for that. So, that comes in its shapes and forms are often for us in Wunderman Thompson as how do we create and deliver that really flawless and superb customer experience, and also creativity and innovation as those core.
You may have seen Lawrence Green, ex of Fallon and 101, wrote in the Media Leader recently saying, it's all over, guys. Creative agency. We're no longer the lead agency. The media agency is the lead agency. Is that relevant? Is that true?
But personally, I don't think so. I think that's a little bit the old order of what it was. And I was very much the same. My background was very much from media agencies. And just a few years ago, when I was chairing the Media Campaign Awards and sort of stood up in front of everyone and went, yeah, media agencies, they're finally at the top table. Yeah. And then I jumped ship and went to the other side. But I do think, there is that is an old order. And actually, it has changed a lot. And in terms of that lead agency, I don't think it works like that. I think clients need us to be a lot more organic. It's not really as hierarchical like that. I think clients lead it and they decide how and when they bring in their capabilities and their partners. And they need to flex in that way. And you can still be that strategic business partner without necessarily being the lead agency. I think it's far more fluid, organic and collaborative than that of just that hierarchical, we're in the lead on it.
Rob, you're absolutely a new breed of agency. Okay, what's built the success of Jellyfish, and why are clients coming to you, and how do they describe Jellyfish? Are you an agency?
Well, we're not. The connotations that come with the word agency is around media or creative, opaque business models, all of those, not necessarily the same technological approach, digital first, all of those things come to mind. So we don't necessarily call ourselves an agency, but we offer agency services. We're very...
What do you call yourself?
Well, we're a global marketing and communications company. And because most of, even if it is around data, technology, media, creative, asset production, training, it all still leads to how can you better engage, communicate with your potential and existing consumer base. So that's where we stop. We don't even have a hierarchy because we don't even think in the silos of a media agency, a creative agency, a systems integrator. It is actually our biggest pitch at the moment. We're working, it's hundreds of millions of media, and but we're dealing with the integrated media team, is what they call it. We can't even say we're a digital marketing company because we believe we're marketing in a digital world. You shouldn't even be, everything's converging. You think the media and the creatives converging, ad tech and martech's converging, performance and brand is converging. It's just all one homogenized effort to make sure that you can now navigate this really complex digital world. So,
and are clients coming to you and saying, you look different to what I'm used to?
100%. And it's only, the thing about it is that I don't have the same frame of reference and the same scale as my esteemed panelists here. So we're only in the conversation when they're ready to potentially do things where you need that integrated setup. So I gave an example, some of the activity, we run a campaign. There are 65 different specialisms and capabilities that are required in the team to deliver the output that we deliver. And so it's just really difficult to coordinate that activity and make sure that you've got all the constituent parts working in unison to deliver what's required in this day and age.
Okay, Natasha, let's bring you. You've been very quiet. You've got a flight.
I know.
You've got a little lightsaber. I mean, in the old days, pre-COVID, let's say, I would say, I mean, it used to be if you had a great relationship with the marketing director and you saw the CEO for lunch, that was a great relationship and it allowed you to do great work. What does the typical great agency client relationship look like now? Who are the people you need? Is it the CTO? Is it the CFO? Is it the CRO? Is it procurement? Who do you need to have that relationship with?
All of the above, I'd say. But no, I think you're right. I mean, obviously, as a media agency, the relationship with the marketing director, the CMO, the CEO are absolutely key. But I think we have to think about what I call breadth and depth. So yes, you need that depth, those key individuals, but actually you really need to have that breadth across the whole kind of client business. The marketing team are often very dependent on other areas of the organisation to get their job done or to influence what they're doing. And actually, as an agency, whether it be a media or different, part of our role is to connect that all together. And kind of get everybody talking together and making sure the marketing team kind of have what they need to do what they need to do, which obviously in turn benefits us. I think that sometimes we need to have, the word I use is a bit more empathy. And I think if you have that breadth, you then get that empathy because you understand why you're being asked to do something, what the triggers are, what the internal organisational, barriers are, for example. So I think having that breadth as well as the depth gives an agency a better understanding and a better empathy for kind of some of the pressures that their clients are under. And in turn, you can do a better job for them.
Rob talked about training. Again, most clients used to know what the media plan looked like, whereas nowadays I think clients really struggle to know what, unless you're a media expert within a client, and we'll come on and talk about that later.
Yeah.
Are you finding yourselves training different levels of client people now?
I think there's always a role for an agency to support their clients in kind of what's next. I mean, at UM we talk about future-proof, so, what's happening now, but actually what's coming up next and how can we help you future-proof. And therefore, yes, there are certain instances where we can absolutely support our clients in that kind of training, but it should always be in partnership. I think there's two things to that. One is really important, and it kind of applies to our own businesses, but also to our clients, is the onboarding. So when you have a new member of the sort of client team join, actually how do you onboard them from day one into the role of the agency, the benefit of what we do?
Onboarding or indoctrinating?
I'm going to use the word onboarding.
Rob, what does your typical client look like? What is again, if you looked at your client list, what's the most modal job title?
It's probably quite digital, technology first, global, and they want to know how to unlock the platforms. So the brands that we work at are the Netflix and the Googles and the, for example, Nike.
So do you find yourself butting up against marketing departments if you're coming from a digital technology? Again, I remember this when my Fetch days, again, we'd suddenly, the marketing department would realise that the e-commerce department is spending more money than they are, and would try and get hold of that. I mean, is that still a thing?
Yes, and
we see that.
Yeah, 100%. And so we're trying to build an ecosystem and an infrastructure that accommodates all this convergence and the global synergies. And yes, the brands aren't always either got the same appetite or the ability to replicate our infrastructure. So there's a lot of discussion around how do we get to the outcome that we're looking for, and how do we just supplement your team or try to be some of the agents of change to get to a closer world that is being caused by digital.
I think, Rob, to your point about the convergence as well, because, they have been very different worlds, CMO and CTOs, CIOs, but we are seeing those roles and responsibilities, I think, in organisations changing. And, I think a good example of that, I don't know if some of you have seen recently that Connie Brams, who was Unilever's Global Chief Marketing and Digital Officer, has now become... her title has changed to Global Digital and Commercial Officer. And I think that was really quite telling of what we're seeing and, the shape of more things to come on it. And then also Chief People Officers, that's becoming a new stakeholder for us to engage with.
Interesting, again, we sort of touch on in-house, again, it sort of is linked to this, so that different skill set within clients. When in-housing, I think, is often overused and often... a bad term, but what do we think? When is it right for clients to take certain skills in house? And perhaps Rob, you can talk about where you probably come across it, as much as the other two, if not more. Which skills work best in house at the client, and which ones, shouldn't be taken?
So I was implying that the number of capabilities required. I don't think there's any secret sauce. There's no specific skills. I think what you need to do is map out what the team required. We've sort of pretty much productized everything we do, and that's a combination of technology, methodology, and capabilities. So when you establish for the activity you're looking to do what the capabilities are required, it doesn't matter what the blend is. I think you just need to have all the requisite skills. So, and we will support any combination. And the main point is that you've just got to work collaboratively. And we try to steer away from things like performance models, and because it just creates a them and us, and it's just got to be one unified effort to achieve what's required.
I think Rob's point, is absolutely incredibly valid, and I think our role then is to look at our teams and how you complement then what the client's doing. So effectively, the sum is greater than the parts. So it becomes one team, and you just respect the different roles you have. But you do have to take a hard look at yourselves then to make sure that you've got the right talent in the right roles to complement that and help piece it together, to the point earlier about agencies as kind of connectors to some degree.
And in housing, from your, has it been tech-led or has it been comms-led? Yeah, or it's different for everybody, and our role is to support that in whichever way is required, whether that is to help that transition, whether that is to physically have some of our talent for a period of time to do that. But the key thing is to make it work as a team. As I say, take a look at ourselves alongside whatever there's being in-house for the right reasons, and kind of build that new model, that new team together. And secondments were something which were probably more in fashion maybe a decade ago, where you'd find agency staffers doing it, but now with people like Oliver, actually setting up a business model to do that full time. Is that something or IPG on a wider basis are looking at?
I think we'd be open to have whatever conversation we need to do, whichever client at that time.
Okay, give me the worst example then. give me an example where it hasn't worked.
Well, the worst example is you put someone in role and they never come back. No, I don't have a bad example of it.
You don't have a bad. Anyone got a bad example, or a client where you, because we talk about clients deserve the agency they get, and again perhaps go on and talk about again how a brand owner could actually, how do you get the best agency team on your business? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think many clients are still they're experimenting with this. Agencies are experimenting with it. And, we've got examples where actually with Microsoft, we have 500 people that we put into Microsoft and almost hire them as Microsoft people.
500?
500.
That's quite a lot.
But we've gone through such a learning experience, because it's actually quite a different model. It's not your usual agency experience and model. So, we've really sort of had to learn a bit.
And those people see themselves as Wonderman people?
Well, the challenge
Microsoft
was
people?
Initially, they saw themselves more as Microsoft, where actually they need to be both. And so we've learned a lot and are having to do a lot around how do you retain people in those roles and make them feel best of both worlds. But I think it's all different kinds of experiences with different clients. But I see there's a lot of sort of test and learn with it, and it's a huge opportunity. I think we used to think as an industry for agencies it's a threat, but I think it literally is the opposite, and it gets you really in positions to be more that strategic partner for them.
And Natasha, agencies always talk about our people are our most important asset. I mean, what makes your people different, and how do you both attract them in the first place and retain them in the second place?
Yes, our people are our most important asset. Everybody who works for an agency is effectively the face of the agency. It's, everybody's marketing your agency, so yes, they are. I think, I do believe agencies are very good culturally with talent in terms of taking the time to listen and understand what they want. And from our perspective, I think, people are looking to develop. I think the last 2 years have been really, really tough, and I think it's probably fair to say that perhaps some careers felt like they were stalled over the last couple of years. So yes, there's the wanting to be developed and build a career, and obviously we want people to feel like they have a career with us. I think the second thing is about, people very much want to make a positive contribution to society. They want to, impact that better world, and what they don't want to do is let that all fall to pieces when they enter the work environment, whether that's at home or physically in an office. And we have a responsibility to enable them to still, I guess, deliver on those passions. And thirdly, I think people want to feel, empowered to make decisions, to work in a way that they want to work. So we have, I'm sure lots of agencies do, we have different initiatives in place. We have one called Empowered You, which enables people in terms of the learning and development, but also really enables them to join, be part of, and kind of promote what they believe in and getting a world with better world initiatives, for example. That's there for them. But also we've introduced a peer-to-peer recognition programme as well, where people are actually empowered to recognise and say thank you. So I think there's lots of things there. Sorry, you were going
I was going to interrupt you, but if you haven't, yeah, you have.
Looks like you did.
I did, yeah. You lost your train of thought. I was going to pick on Rob because, yeah. So no, Rob. So, are you going to be different from? Yeah, are you going to say tech's more important than people? Yeah.
No, again, it's a perfect blend, but no, I mean,
Yeah.
people are.
Are you stealing people from WPP and IPG, or are you attracting people from different sectors?
Not
growing your own. What are you doing?
We're growing our own, and again, we're doing things differently. I think the empowerment, everybody treating their careers like a hobby. It's about you take ownership. It's all about passion. And, we encourage people to consider within Jellyfish, it's a passion to cultivate, not a ladder to climb. You only got to be better than yourself and add more value than yourself. There's no hierarchies. We don't have line managers. Everybody's got a support network, so they take ownership.
But what's your retention rate? Is it?
It's probably 10, 11%, even through the COVID period.
Right.
And
where are you losing those people? I always think that's more interesting. Where were you losing people?
Everywhere, and we are losing because of the future, and it's more complex, and it's no longer about the buying power and where the network agencies have had a much more of a competitive advantage. Now, where we're getting into the sort of more granular, exponential requirements to hold people's attention, because advertising is the monetization of attention. And now, to get someone's attention, the amount of platforms, formats of creative devices, it's just more complex.
I've got a session on that in a minute.
Oh, have you? So yeah, we won't go into that.
It's early in the morning, I know, but if anyone's got a question, there's now a chance. We're coming to the last 5 minutes. Anyone brave enough to ask a question first thing in the morning? No, all right, I'll do one more and I'll come back to you to think about a question. Today is called The Future of Brands. Let's talk about the future a bit. Caroline, I think WPP have some amazing future trend. Yeah,
yes,
would you like to tell us about what that might be for brands, for consumers, and indeed for agency groups, whether you'll be Messence Wonderman Thompson this time next year?
Okay, well, less about agencies, but more about brands. And yes, we produce all kinds of brilliant thought leadership, as I do say so myself. But the best report that I love that comes out every year is our Future 100, and it really identifies those trends that are going to shape the year ahead. And I'm not going to go through those full 100, but two big themes that come out that I think have such a huge impact on all of us, and in some ways are opposing each other. And the first being this whole area of well-being that's taken, and we're seeing well-being across almost every single sector. Whether that's a new drink that is there to supercharge your immune system, or whether it be these new spaces, microforests that are popping up to provide people with these emotional outlets to de-stress, etc. And we're seeing such an array of how this is really, I suppose, manifesting itself. But I heard a really interesting view yesterday, actually, hot off the press, with Kantar, and this whole move of us moving from what's all been about self and more to society and communalism. And they speak a lot about, they've got all of these insights that show we're literally on the brink of moving from customer centricity and customer experience to human experience. And the reason that is all happening is that because disruption and volatility is just going to continue. That's new for us. We've seen it in the last few years. That's going to go on and on. And for us to be able to cope with that, we need to really think more about, we'll see more analogue trends again, which I find fascinating. Local will become more important because we all want to be in the here, now, the present. So I think that's going to create all kinds of new trends for brands. And it really just sort of, I suppose, it offsets almost the opposite big trend. As we're saying we'll move towards more analogue and local, to then, of course, we're on the verge of this total new horizon and era in digital, where sci-fi is becoming reality. And the shifts that we're now seeing in the metaverse, someone called it the other day, metaverse, for it, in that today, in terms of what we can do today, we can buy, we can sell, we can create, we can socialise, we can even marry in the metaverse, apparently, today. But what's coming in the pipeline in the next year or two, I think, is just fascinating. And it's the number one thing that clients are asking us about at the moment, and what should they do with it? And then seeing this real shift that, of course, augmented reality is here and now. already, and everything then in between as we get to the full virtual reality.
Okay, I'll stop you there. Natasha, give me something that you can guarantee is going to happen in the next 12 months and something that might be happening in 5 years' time.
Guarantee that we will collectively get better at customer experience. We know that's what consumers want. They want experience, they want trust, and I think we're all working really, really hard to kind of join that end-to-end.
Including airlines?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And 5 years, I'm going to finish with, I think, not the trend in 5 years, but if you don't do it in 5 years, we all know that consumers look to brands and businesses to progressively embrace sustainability, diversity, and I guess I would say that in 5 years, if you haven't done that, you will see the impact on your commercials, and you will be losing audiences without a doubt. So that would be.
Rob, you got something you can guarantee me, and something that you'd like to see happen in 5 years?
Okay, well, the guarantee is that there will still be more focus on privacy and trying to get the balance between personalisation and privacy. That's going to be one thing that's going to happen. And in 5 years' time, we probably won't be as precious about our data. And we will realise that it's actually impacted our experiences, and we would understand the trade-off.
I'll name drop for a second. I remember in 2011, I was in Facebook, and Sheryl Sandberg said, "I've got my mobile number on my profile, and you will all do that." Yeah, we're like, that's not her real mobile. Right, last chance for a question. Anyone? Right, Mr. Andrew Goldborn at the back.
Andrew Goldborn from Red Mill Solutions. I'd be interested in what advice the panel would give their clients on how to get the best out of their agency.
Yeah. Okay. Great question for those that did. How do you get the best out of your agency? Right. You've got 30 seconds each. We'll start with you, Caroline.
I think it's got to be communication. Just bring them in, involve them in everything, make them part of, open up, and be sort of that open business partner. Be the number one.
Yeah. Rob?
Eradicate anything, whether it's the agreement, the commercial model, the way in which you conduct your meetings, etc. Eradicate anything that creates a divide, and that gives you the indication that you're two teams. Make sure that you always feel like one team.
So communicate, one team. Natasha?
Yeah, they're a benefit to you. Look at them as that. Look at them as a benefit. Respect their expertise, and as Caroline says, get them involved really, really early and with everything.
Right, sound advice. Right, we're out of time. I'm flashing. Steve's raring to get back up again in his game show jacket. So please join me in thanking my illustrious panel for starting the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.